Okay, is this check? Right, it is. Okay, live in 1 minute. Just need to make sure that everything is in order before that damn camera goes on. Made sure you got extra time. Question period is Caesar's time. It's the time of back and forth. And I'll start off with a little quick here. There was the what someone is calling the Love-In, the premier's meeting. It's a free for all for projects. I obviously am the advocate of the corridor 100,000 times. I think the corridor is the next stage of Canadian unity. Bring the North together. I'm a huge advocate of, first of all, change the name from territory to province, and bring them closer every day, inch a little closer to unity of the territories, and of course, they need large infrastructure projects and such. All right. Okay, I think I'm almost ready, at least. I'm going to put my hat on later. Yeah, okay. So, it's already warm in here. It's warm outside in Niagara. How is your weather? It's outstanding weather. And first we'll start off with Quebec. Quebec has just signed a Gull Island project, huge project, on the Churchill River with Newfoundland and everything. It's going to be another large, major amount of hydropower, which everyone, I'm a huge advocate for. It makes sense. Quebec, the reason I'm a huge advocate for it is because it's already been done, and it's proven. It's a proven system that works. This hydropower, Quebec has excess power, and they have a aluminum industry because of it. They have these big, very clean aluminum, smelting aluminum is at least 5 stages, of furnace. So this basic system is very messy if you're using coal, which that's what China does. China produces 60 megaton, whatever, 60, right? And we produce about 3, and we're number 4. The number goes like from 60 to like 5. We're like, you know what I mean? 3 and 4. We're tied with Russia, kind of thing. And both those places just use filthy coal, and we're using wonderful clean hydro. And so places like Europe, they tax you if you sell them aluminum that comes from filthy coal, right? Produced. This is such a filthy industry. It can be, but so this is why I'm an advocate for it. I'm not an advocate for it because of this. No, and then second, we have so much. Like every single provincial power company has on the books ready to go projects. They're sitting there waiting. They're like, please, this project is approved environmentally. It's ready to go. All we need is the government ambition and some money, right? And to me, I think it's a transformation. As we know, ITER, which is nuclear, to me, I'm sorry, not a big fan of it because ITER is coming online in the next 50 years. I'm a fan of it after we've done the hydro, after we've put all of our hydro dams and wonderful things, and we've figured out how the fish, we've already done this, figured out how the fish can swim upstream, and there's no pollution that comes with it, or almost zero, okay? Once we have that, and then it's like, okay, yeah, well, we got to, let's do nuclear. I think nuclear would be the second, personally. Wind, actually, is another one. As Nova Scotian Premier Dallas, I want to call him Holland for some reason, but Dallas, or Houston, that's what it is. That's why I think Holland. Houston, I keep calling him Dallas. Anyway, I'm so sorry. But Premier Houston, he said, we can produce a third or a quarter of like this is tested. This is actually back in the day of Mulrooney. They had all these environmentalists or whatever, the weather people that got laid off by Harper, went around the country, and they tested the wind of everywhere. So there's prevailing winds, right? The westerlies where I'm at in Niagara Falls, and all this stuff. And so they tested it. So they know. They have tested wind areas. And Nova Scotia, if anyone's been in Nova Scotia, or Saskatchewan, by the way, southern Saskatchewan, there's a consistent prevailing wind, and it's always coming. If you live in certain parts of Nova Scotia, and it channels in certain places. So it's not like it's the problem I have with it, a little bit of with wind, is that we're not producing the wind machines here. That's the problem I have with wind. We need to give incentivizing companies to build them here, not in other countries. And that's just my opinion. So there's that. There may be issues with it and this and that, but we know there's issues with nuclear. We just know it. It just happened recently in Japan. Japan is like, they are not into nuclear anymore. Why? Well, of course they refixed it and everything, but they're looking for every other means. They're doing oil, right? Because oil is filthy, but it's safer. They have a major problem. They're not, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, yeah, it's a problem. And so anyway, that's what my beliefs are. And it's not like I'm like this green thing. To me, it just makes sense. Why are we destroying things? And we know that there's all these derelict wells. Once we're going to have commercial companies, and I even was an advocate for this, commercial companies doing nuclear. Well, what's going to happen when fusion comes, which is coming? 50 years, they said. In 50 years, France and China, they said, is guaranteed to be it. And fusion is like, I don't know, 100. One power plant, the whole country. It's just totally different animal. It's done. Everything else will be done. Except hydro. Hydro will be still good because it's so low. It's inputs and outputs. And I'm not trying to say shut the nuclear industry. We should mine our uranium, sell it to all the countries that don't have what we have in natural resources. Anyway, so that I will go. I just keep saying the same things because I don't see anyone else saying it. And it seems to me like just so easy and logical. These green priests, to me, are very frustrating. To me, they're like hoity-toity, and their arguments don't work. They don't work on me, and I'm like, lean that way. They actually, it's the first thing is you solve the problem at the lowest level. And the first problem we have that we can solve in this country, I don't care about any other country, is we can get hydro and wind, power everything. That's it. Everything else about the green waters coming up and this and that, all of it, I think they should stop talking about it in this country, in our country, and so because Quebec figured it out, and they're just about to like really up their game. So the idea, and on Quebec, the two separatist parties apparently were a little bit upset that it was 11 at the premier's meeting. I think that Prime Minister Mark Carney is really good at unifying. He's doing a really good job by using the premiers, who have been pushed aside in previous Liberal government. The previous Liberal government didn't need them. So they or whatever. I don't know their reasoning. But now having them like, oh, come on in. I invite your say. They're all like, oh, we love it. This country's the best. Even Danielle Smith, who I think she's a very good politician. She has a very tough job herding Alberta. Alberta is the hardest province to herd. There's a lot of anger there. There's anger on steroids with an overheated room and no water. that's Alberta. God love Alberta. And so that's it. Back to Quebec, Yves Francois. I want to call him Yves. Francois Blanchette is, I believe, the best. The problem I have with the Bloc Québécois is they're really good politicians. It's kind of a double. But under Yves Francois Blanchette, he said the separatist issue is not coming up in under my reign, and he's the guy running the party, and he's got full control. No one's contesting it because he does such a good job. He always does great arguments. Like it's like I always wait for his arguments, because they're always like, oh, that's a good one every single time. And not just him, he has other MPs that also, some of them, I think, are towing a little bit of that, pushing that line of separatism. But hey, it's part of their party. But under him, he says it's not going to come up. We're not going to bring it up. Separatism is not going to be voted on. So under Yves-François Blanchet, I think the Bloc Québécois is a great party. And also, a lot of the policies he brings forward are, of course, specifically for Quebec. But like the last one, raising the old age pension money, yes, it helps Quebecers, but it helps the rest of the country also. So he's like, okay, this is a problem in Quebec, and he tries to, you know what I mean? He's leading from Quebec for Quebec, right? So it's, you know what I mean? He's walking on a tightrope, if Niagara Falls reference, on a tightrope that's a razor's edge, and he does it like, does it awesome. I just have a lot of respect for the François Blanchet. Monsieur Blanchet. Sorry, I mean nothing with it. But the Quebec, I think, mentality needs to come out a bit more. Why are they against oil? And the reason, it was explained to me by someone, a Frenchman, Quebecer, and I had no argument, and I was like, work oil industry, I think oil, and I'm like, ugh, he beat me, and very rarely I'll even baloney it, and I couldn't, and he'd had nope, go to this, and this new island, Gull Island. With Newfoundland. Newfoundland they got a raw deal. They were getting 1960s money, per kilowatt, whatever. That was 1960s thing. It was the deal they signed, the politicians signed. And so they just reevaluated that. So now Newfoundland, and this Churchill River is an unbelievable amount of water they can produce. And Quebec, not necessarily Quebec, but in Quebec, Hydro-Quebec, whatever, has a lot of technologies. They actually had spies. Chinese spy was caught there and arrested. Whatever happened to him, I don't know. The mystery is out. But we have we have leading world technologies. Remember, the largest dam in the world that actually, it actually changed the rotation of the Earth a little bit, just a little bit. There's 15 zeros and 1 4, but it changed the spinning of the Earth. Is the Three Gorges Dam. The Three Gorges Dam is just It's the Hoover Dam of our era. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's huge. And recently, a few years ago, they had a problem. They were concerned it was going to blow. It didn't. And they have more problems in warm climate. There's the rain cycle, the water cycle. It's more variances in their 100-year rain cycle. There's a 100-year rain cycle, and a lot of people don't understand that. And we've been building on a 20-year rain cycle. So everyone who's like, oh, the flooding and stuff, well, yeah, because we've documented the 100-year cycle. It's probably more than a 100-year cycle. There's probably another larger one. But we know about the 100-year cycle, and within that cycle, just like when you flip a coin, if you flip a coin enough times, it'll be 50% heads, 50% tails. This is the 100-year cycle. And so we've been building on a smaller scale. So we've built for disasters. And people of the environmental green priests, I like to call them, have been using that argument, right, and not explaining that we're in a water cycle. You know what I mean? And we've built with a small window, and knowing that we did it wrong. But they're basically using separifuge to push their agenda, which I think doesn't need to be in this country. It doesn't need to be done, and it weakens their argument, in my opinion. It turns people away because they know the truth, right? They're like, wait a second here. Wait. That doesn't fly. And then when they do things like, anyway, the premier's meeting, is anyone even here? Am I talking to myself? Probably. I don't know what I'm talking. I know I have I got channel. No one. But the premier's meeting was 11. He said he's going to give a je ne sais quoi. Let's see. The all the premiers gave their projects forward. Mr. Houston, Premier Houston gave his wind. Wab Kinew said Port of Manitoba. Manitoba giving power to Danielle Smith and the Albertans. Rise of the Albertans. So they can upgrade their fuel there and keep the pollution down with clean hydro. And they got it. And then also PJ of Nunavut territory, which I believe should be called a province, just automatically. Just change the name to a province. First thing. In my opinion. Oh, I haven't seen this guy on my feed in a long time. Wonder what happened to him. Numbers are down. So, who else had a they didn't say anything about BC. BC just has a huge gold plant come out. Ontario, Ring of Fire. Dougie, I don't know him obviously, but I try to make him more like Dougie. You know what I mean? I think that I think that we're at a point in Canada where disunity or whatever it has been promoted so much on all these on the social media, Facebook, this and that it's time for Canada to lead the world and find unity. Doug Ford, guaranteed, if I were to go through line by line a lot of his policies, there would be stuff I would be vehemently angry with. Vehemently, as to follow a New Yorker accent. But he overall is doing a decent job. So, you know what I mean? I believe that it's if Canada be Canadians, but to be Canadians as we were when SCTV was around, we laugh at each other, But we have a little bit of self-deprecating humor. But overall, you know what I mean? And Trump is helping that. Trump, just a lot. There's a lot there. I think he's trying to do good for his country, but we all know that there's. I disagree with a lot of things the way he's going about it. However, he says, he's the president. He's the leader of the free world. So I believe in giving him a little bit of respect, but at a distance. And him pushing on Canada as the 51st state to me is that's where it really, it's where I get more upset. But at the same time, it's working. It's like the mean boss. There's types of bosses. There's the mean boss that brings people together. He's like the mean boss that brings people together and unified against them. So respect. The Dougie said that Legault was like, we have hydropower. We have other projects. I think he had some other projects. Yukon was talking about a new system of critical minerals, which is cool. Their territory, very small pop, 50,000 people, I think, there. I think that it's time. Personally, I think that we should be stopping this not even stopping. Yeah, stopping this housing crisis and this other thing because we have a pressure. Right? When there's a pressure, all you need is a little relief valve, temperature pressure valve, and it blows up. So if you have a place for cheap homes, cheap things, where they need labor, and it's tough conditions and these bogs and this thing to build the roads, you know what I mean? And you don't have to pay the best people huge $300,000 a year to go up there. Pay the great unwashed to go to these awful places, bug-ridden bogs and where we're learning how to build roads and everything's kind of a show, right? And there's a reason why there's only 50,000 people up in the Yukon. But these technologies are changing, and the pressure we have on people who can't afford a home. If there's a place in Whitehorse I can get a home and get a job and have a home, 5 minutes. Where's you know what I mean? Where's the road? I'll walk there. You know what I mean? I'll put my stick in my bag and I'll walk there. You know what I mean? Anyway, it's perfect. Everything comes in alignment. I think. We need the projects, we need the unification, and up north needs the work, right? And then in a generation, there'll be Yukoners, and there'll be Churchillians, and all these wonderful things. So Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, I don't know what they had to say. Northwest Territories, it was Gray's Island. Gray's Bay, which is like straight up north from the oil sands, and Gray's Bay could be a port to sell our oil, bitumen to Asia. I think it should be, personally, I'm a huge believer. I think it should just go to Churchill, have just 3, 4, 5 pipes to Churchill. Makes sense, consolidated. I don't see oil lasting too much longer. The Saudi Arabian oil, the Saudis have been keeping the oil in high prices for a long time, and they could drop it down to 40 a barrel and still make huge profit. Huge. It's just they have a better system. They don't have to heat it. We have to heat our bitumen. There's a lot of stuff. And once oil really comes, it's basically going to be from China. Once China starts selling their cars around to Europe and flooding Africa and Asia with their cars, BVD is the electric EV company. They're building a manufacturing city bigger than San Francisco. Bigger than San Francisco. One factory, people living there, bigger than San Francisco. So what do you call it, lines of efficiencies, economies of scale are just so big that, Oh, yeah, there's One factory. Oh, okay, here we go. We got someone here. Real history. BC Hydrogate. Fuck the fit. The hydro with British Columbia Hydro or whatever, but they figured out there's a way. There's actually and it's fairly recent technology, the right grade and the right angle to have fish to go around the dams. It wasn't before. If you look along the west coast, they had these like fish chutes. Like they literally went down a slide. It was an answer. Kudos to the person. But now they've figured it out how to make literally. It's an architectural design about rocks and things, how to slow the water down enough to make the fish go around. So yeah, it was a problem. I agree. But they figured it, and they haven't just figured it out a little bit. It's like, it's like to the point where it's like exactly, you're hungry, you're starving, and then after you've eaten, that feeling of like, are you hungry? No. That's exactly where they're at. They figured it out, and it did take a while, though. I agree. It was a problem. But they've, like I said, okay. The fish shoots. Yeah, there was the first solution. The shoots. Yeah. We do not need your pipeline. Well, the pipeline is, I believe, hey, if there's private investment, I think, okay. And you know what I mean? Maybe to Gray's Island up through the Arctic, okay, fine. To me, it makes more sense to put it to Churchill. If there's private money, I think it's a gamble, and I'm not a gambler. Nothing against casinos. I love the casino in Niagara Falls. I think it's a great thing. Personally, I don't find the interest in winning money, throwing money to play. I'd like to watch. I enjoy, you give your lady some money and cheer her on. Yeah, there you go. Play a little bit of some card games are fun, right? Poker and stuff like that. Not, a little bit. But this idea of the gambling and on oil it's silly, and that's fine for private companies to make money on it, because oil will be used. It'll be used, I don't know, in there'll be still places, and there's machines that are going to last 50 years, and they will use oil, right? But when you're buying a new vehicle or a new tractor, it's going to be running on electric. It's the economies of scale that are about to come. See, China has a car out, a BVD car. I think it's about 500 or 450 kilometers per charge. It's $10,000. It would be $10,000. It's $20,000 because we have 120% tariff on it. So it's like $20,000. It's still cheaper than any other car made in North America. And once this factory fully comes online, they're going to be selling like, ooh. And I think that we have to, instead of stopping progress, we have to help our big $120,000 workers in the auto industry to retool to the new industries into all kinds of stuff, right? Like Siemens does all kinds of different products, not just vehicle, very high tech. So I believe that instead of this tariff is a stop, because basically they had a plan, and they would have destroyed our auto industry in like 3 months, except Ford, because Ford is family money. But the other ones, because they run on stock market, in 3 months their stocks would have been worth nothing. The companies make more money off of their selling of vehicles as a bank, right? More than making the vehicles. They would have been gone, wiped off the map. They had to do so. Biden and Canada followed suit. We had to do something. It would have been over. But it's a stopgap. Now it's time to, okay, how do we help these companies retool? Retool to other things, and not just weapons of war, which, most likely will be some of these plants would make sense. But there's a lot of products coming for the future that will be needed. I think part of it is going to be needed for infrastructure. The other projects I can think of, so Mo mentioned uranium, I think. Potash, he mentioned potash. Potash is about to come online. I think he said the largest potash mine in the world, which is great. You need potash for fertilizer. And Russia's the number one, and we're number two producer. And now that, we're not, it's friendly, and it doesn't look like to be getting, Medvedev, who was president when Putin went to become vice president. He went president. He did his 2 terms, and then he went to become vice president. And Medvedev was like the mayor of Moscow, pretending to be president while Putin did stay out of the limelight. Yeah, admittedly so, during that time. And then they changed the laws, and then he came back, and he's been a dictator ever since, or autocrat ever since. To put it honestly. And there's a lot of love. I don't want to say love. There's a lot. Yeah, there is a lot of love for Putin. He did save a lot of things. So I don't, within the Federation of Russia. But Medvedev has said the other day, Russia isn't looking for peace. They are looking for victory. And this is not someone like no. This is the guy who Putin chose to help him get back to power. You know what I mean? There's some trust there. And in this guy saying that we're looking for victory, I don't see. I think at the dawn, POTUS Trump, him saying, well, it isn't going very well, and him getting upset with Moscow, there's something, right? So it looks like I think it's going to be for some time, another decade. So potash, Canadian potash, I think that company should put big maple leaves all over their products and sell it, that they're a safe potash, safe Canadian potash, as much as possible. And we should be wrapping our thing, because every single farmer in the world knows they need the potash. 15 more minutes. Pipelines. Engineered the crap out of those fish. They engineered. It's very simple. It's a very simple process of the water. They put those cement roadblocks that are fat on the bottom and they narrow on the top. Those things at periodic levels with rocks to slow the water down, and only having it at a certain grade. And then the water is running on the pebbles that slow the idea is to use as little water as possible, and as short of a run, so the fish can get up. And they figured, like I said, it's a wonderful thing. It's not even a little bit. It's not even a thing anymore. But we don't have our green priests. I call them green priests, facetious. We don't have our green priests saying, "Hey, we figured this out." We have them like screaming about, and I don't want to sit here and bash against Al Gore, but screaming about, we have to tax you on carbon, and this people are using bad fridges, and they're driving around hypocritically. So it's like, whoa.
I believe small, narrow beam, strong focus. And then from there, yes, branch out. But that should be the mantra over and over and over until everyone says that line. And then expand to the next one. Expand to the. But right now in Canada, it's hydro and wind. It's pretty much solved. We could have all of our power used on hydro and wind. But right now, I didn't realize how much wind Nova Scotia could have produced. And that's them to get a quarter of Canada's power, just Nova Scotia. We live in Newfoundland. If you ever go to Port aux Basques in Newfoundland on the Rock, or the Avalon Peninsula on the other side, it's windy. If you go to Saskatchewan, it's very windy. So there's a great place for our manufacturing base. I would buy. I would not buy, but I would think it would be cool to see a Chrysler windmill. You know what I mean? And they have their big emblem up there glowing in the night. And now they pay the farmer to let their advertise. Oh yeah, Chrysler, right? Or Dodge. I like my Dodge windmills. Right? I just that kind of jargon to me is how you promote things forward. You promote the great masses instead of I don't know. Oil is. I'm not against it. I'm just if there's money, there's someone who wants to invest in it. But it actually is already for costs. It's already passed. It literally has passed. Though because we're already producing oil and stuff like that. The starting things up in this country and any country in the West is very, very difficult. So the natural gas, especially, and stuff like that, it'll probably be used for some time. And everyone, the German industrialists, and I mean everyone, and I mean them. They're the largest concentrated people who think industrialization. They're the techno army, right? The joke about Star Wars. They all said that hydrogen is going to replace all of our natural gas, all of our thing, and that's what they said. We're going forward is is the best plan forward. So we won't have to all of their. If you build a natural gas plant, you can build it in a year or two. And it can convert over to hydrogen fairly easy. It's a conversion. It's not a rebuild. And there's not a re-permit. And there's none of this and that. It's just a cleaner fuel. It's just more BTUs per volume. So this they said basically that's the way that part will go. So natural gas is the natural is the natural way to do natural gas, and then converting to hydro as like hydrogen as it happens. The fact that hydro, electrolysis is how you put two electrodes, just two electrodes, and this is the simplest way. Two electrodes in a jar, and you get hydrogen and oxygen out of water, right? So if we are building these hydro plants, that take a while. Hydrogen will be the next step, and then if you have wind power or hydropower, you know what I mean? This is what they call blue hydrogen. There's different grades. There's green and then gray hydrogen, which is right now cheap. You get natural gas, and you clean it up to basically be hydrogen. As I talk and talk and talk. Just looking at something here. Am I? Said I'm almost. Oh no, thank you. So let's see some of your comments. Give me about 30 seconds. Apologize. For any inconveniences that you might. Apologize for any inconveniences that you might be holding. I can type. I'll be faster. It helps when you turn things on. Yeah, I'm on that's it. No sugar. maybe. I'm a firm believer in following the natural course of things. That's summertime. You get less hungry. That's when I start trying to lose. And I do it almost every year. I have a pair of pants that I try to fit in. It actually came from a guy Barry who's long gone. I put on this pair of pants and try to put them on every year to make sure I get it. And it takes me last year. I don't know. They were like the threads were screaming at me. This year I got to work harder. But it took to like September. It should be by June to be able to fit in those pants and to feel right. And I added some extra. But your waist, no matter how, usually you know what I mean, how much you work out and stuff like that. That's a lot of weight training. But your waist, it doesn't gain muscle. I don't think. So this is the thing. I don't know about you folks about. I think this new, what do you call it, Maha, is great. All right. I think there's been talk. What was it? I think I won't even the social media. I think there's something in the media about social media, not YouTube. YouTube, I guess, is fine, but I think YouTube it follows the trends slowly. That's why it isn't in the media, whereas a lot of them are a lot of the other social media groups are following the latest trends a lot too very very closely, and thus getting themselves in trouble. Whereas the leg is on YouTube, they're like, yeah, we'll start canceling people, but they drag their feet, thus not being right the tip of the spear kind of thing. And I know that yes, we got all kinds of slanderous things, and basically we've come to the point where this is what I'm going to say about this. There's billions of dollars that people have made off of selling drugs and slandering people online. Billions. We're not talking millions. We're talking billionaires have been made. And so there's a very large incentive, and it's from outside forces as well, right? Incentivizing this stuff, and within our own country. And we basically, I think, we're getting to the point of that we're actually we're degrading ourselves. Because it's very easy to just slanderously someone off and get people not to click or this and that. It's just become our androgynous zones are so large that there's issues with it. And at the same time, we have mass amount of population that's like addicted to these very, very destructive and hard drugs, and it's hard to fight back. When you're like hanging, I know myself with hangover. I had hangovers and people would be trying to convince me to do something, and it's hard to fight back. You're like, what? And I can't come up with the argument because my brain is like, quitting drinking is the best, clearest thing. I love my weekends more than I ever have. Wake up in the morning, it's beautiful days. It's not like, oh, all right, let's go there. By 1 o'clock, you're sorted out. But we have huge mass parts of the population that don't feel that pain, but their brain is in that scenario. So it's easier to get people to get angry over nothing. And it's been pushed by our politicians. Our politicians have been, they're the people too. They're people. And they've been, at the same time, been susceptible to this. They're like, hey, if I want to get elected, all I have to do is throw slander. And we know this is happening since, I don't know, probably time immemorial. But there's a lot of this going on that really gets elevated. That there was a few people that were doing it before. Now it's like everybody. Everybody has to be a part of this huge strokes and others androgynous zone of an anger and get upset, very upset over over nothing, right? Over which I think that's where we're at personally in our society, and it would behoove us. It would be lovely to see our leaders like they were. I give them a lot of golf clap. I give them a golf clap to actually saying, you know what, we actually see some unity and just talk yes, behind the scenes there was probably. We'll say Smith was probably I don't agree with it, But, what I mean? But saying, hey, you know what? Dougie's a decent person. Carney's a decent guy. He's trying, right? Instead of this, he should be put in jail. And I find fun with it. But personally, I'm seeing it's come to the point, hey, like everything you do it enough and then it becomes boring. And now we're at that personally, I'm at that point. I follow politics way too much. So I'm ahead of it, I think. I think everyone will come to this conclusion that they're tired of saying lock him up and he's a criminal and Hillary this and Hillary. It's going to be the I don't know if this is right, but the kumbaya kind of more is going, because we're going to have outside enemies, and having us all together and outside enemies, that's the same thing, but it makes it better in your community, in your country, in your sphere of Western influence. And it isn't, like I said, it isn't better because we're all in this. The whole world is in a ditch. We're all struggling. But it's, to me, is I think where we should lead this devil's snares of social media into, okay, because look what happens in our streets. I don't want to, you know what I mean? There's it's highlighted by the news, and the news stopped advertising bank robberies because it was making more bank robberies. And then when they stopped, the banks are the ones. Banks people, I argue and complain about the bank people, but they're smart. Whether I like it or not, I don't like it. I wish they were dumb, but they are smart. And they were like, well, how do we stop this Derringer type folks? First of all, the police had some ideas. They're like, okay, automatic weapons, a long time in jail. You don't use them. 2, you make the crime of this really high. You go away for a long time. And then, and not like Musk, you get a golden key, right? And then 3, you have the banks came up with the idea, and they told the media, which is a pillar of society, helps society, stop advertising it. You're advertising it, thus making more people want to do it. That's why I have certain items I don't talk about. And so that's it. It's like, hey, slandering someone is advertised. It's a big thing in our media, and it works. But the thing is people are encaptured. We have to watch our media. There's only a certain amount of people like myself. I'm out of the box. But there's people that are in the box. You know what I mean? There's make Joe Rogan not talk about, and he doesn't, talk about the horrible parts of society that are one hating another. He's not very much of a divider, which that's where I think why he's got a touch of the pop in him. He's not like, well, this side, and doesn't do that. And I think it should be pushed to all the other ones. And if they're all doing it in unison, if they're all told by the banks kind of idea, by the money, that, not in Canada. Why don't you put 3 hours of what's happening over another country? And then so people can go, oh, it's awful over there, right? Not here. Well, I'm glad we don't have it here. And I think we can lower amount of this. And then number 2 is I researched a couple regimes, the Russian regime and the German awfuls, and both of them started before the hurting started. They all started with rhetoric. And so rhetoric, of course, we have to have a free society of speech. I'm just meaning, I think we should condemn as much as possible, but not condemn and ostracize. Just be like, I personally am not that. And then not go into that person's bad, Trump's bad. Just for a while to tone it back down and to get our society back on, us against this outside demon. Oh, okay. I was going to put that play. I know it's just me talking here, so we're just about starting Parliament. So real history. You're speaking a lot. Yeah, electrolysis to separate it out of the water. I believe even seawater can be used. Yeah, they can use seawater. We don't need to deionize. I don't know what that is. All of our fresh. Oh yeah. You're right. Yeah, seawater can be used. There's a blue water one in Newfoundland that's actually going forward. They just use seawater, and there's a lot of seawater. The processor will laugh my ass, and my winter clothes are definitely a little bigger. Yeah, I think. Thanks for the comments. You're right along. Working out. I work out. I try to do it every day. I don't have the gym membership. I used to do the 3 times a week workout and destroy myself like in those 3 times. Walk out knuckle dragging kind of thing. Oh, you can't open the door, and that's when I knew I had a good thing. You have to like lean on the door to open it. That's but I don't have a membership or something, so I have a little gym in the office kind of thing and do my stuff. But in the summertime, it's you have to up the cardio big time. It's hard. Cardio in the winter, I actually made a big error. Is great. You go walking out in the snow and deep snow and stuff. That's great for you. You need some good wicking stuff. Okay, here. Why is that not? There we go. Peekaboo. There's the Milky Way in Niagara Falls. Wonderful, beautiful Niagara Falls. The most beautiful falls in the world. Why? Because it's around the corner.
Stand on guard for thee.
Right, live in Canada.
Ouvrez la porte.
Déclaration de députés, statements by members. The Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
For over 150 years, Canada Post has been a cornerstone of a national identity, connecting Canadians in every region. It's more than a mail carrier, it's a vital public service. It's as Canadian as maple syrup. Yet today, that service is under threat. Canada Post is considering cuts to door-to-door delivery, closing post offices, outsourcing jobs, and even privatizing. These moves would weaken communities and jeopardize thousands of good union jobs. Postal workers have taking a stand not only for fair working conditions, but to defend this public institution. The Liberals shut down their strike prematurely, and to this day, no agreement has been reached. Now Canada Post is pushing for a forced vote on its final offer. This won't bring lasting peace. There's a better way. CUPW has proposed finding and binding arbitration and a fair, neutral path that suspends strikes and lockouts and ensures a just resolution. I urge the Minister in this House to stand with postal workers, defend this vital public service, and restore fairness to the bargaining process.
Honourable Member for Mississauga East, Cooksville.
With heartfelt gratitude and deep humility, I rise today in this 45th Parliament. I'm truly honored that the people of Mississauga East Cooksville have entrusted me with the responsibility of serving them once again. Representing this vibrant and diverse community since 2003 has been one of the greatest honors of my life. I want to sincerely thank the dedicated volunteers and supporters of our campaign for their commitment to our community and country. To my loving wife, Christine, and our twin sons, Sebastian and Alexander, your unwavering support and the many sacrifices are at the heart of everything I do, and I am forever grateful. As an immigrant of Portuguese descent whose family's journey reflects the dreams of many, I join all Canadians in celebrating June as Portuguese Heritage Month, honoring the hard work, resilience, and contributions of the community. Speaker, though challenges lie ahead, our path is clear. Protect our sovereignty, ease the cost of living, keep our community safe, and grow a strong, inclusive economy. Canada strong, Mr. Speaker. Canada strong.
Obrigado. Falkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Jimmy Lai is a father, brother, uncle, and grandfather with strong ties to Canada. He's a British citizen, a pro-democracy leader, a medium freedom champion, and a prisoner of conscience. Since December 2020, Hong Kong authorities have held Mr. Lai in solitary confinement on trumped-up charges under their authoritarian national security laws. This is over 4 years. And for what crime? He published the truth, defended democracy, and stood up for freedom. Mr. Lai's imprisonment is unjust, not to mention dangerous for a 77-year-old suffering from diabetes. This despicable show trial in front of hand-picked judges by the Chinese Communist Party has already lasted over 17 months. Next week, Sebastian Lai will be on Parliament Hill to tell his dad's story and talk about what Canada should do to help free Jimmy Lai. This is a gross human rights violation that the Magnitsky Act was designed to address. The government of Canada should use it, speak out, and forcefully call for Jimmy Lai's release.
Honourable member.
Jimmy Lai is the Daily Apple. Google the Daily Apple is what he had a newspaper.
Time to rise in this House as the representative for the remarkable people of Oakville West. I thank them for their trust, and I'm deeply grateful to my incredible volunteers, team, and family. Your support and sacrifice has brought me here.
This election was on change and for a better future for Canada.
Automation, industry, and robotics, I have seen how innovation is reshaping our world. As the Prime Minister has said, Canada is poised to lead in AI, clean tech, and advanced manufacturing only if we invest in our people and our potential. That includes creating real opportunities for women in STEM, so they are not just part of the future, but helping to design it. I look forward to working with the Prime Minister and this government to ensure Canada leads with innovation, inclusion, and strength. Ensemble, nous allons construire.
Together, we will build Canada strong.
The honourable member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, it's always a distinct honor to rise in this chamber to represent the good people of Souris Moose Mountain, a region that shaped who I am. It's where I was born, where I was raised, and where I learned the value of hard work, integrity, and service. Our riding is built on the strength of those who rise early and work hard. Farmers, ranchers, oil and gas workers, power producers, and entrepreneurs. These industries don't just support families in our region, they help drive the Canadian economy. The people of Souris Moose Mountain embody the best of rural Canada, self-reliant, community-minded, and deeply rooted in their values. I was raised in that environment, and I will carry those principles with me into every debate, every vote, and every conversation in this House. To the good people back home, thank you for your trust and your example. It's a privilege to serve you, and I will continue to be a strong and steady voice for you and our region here in Ottawa.
The Honourable Member for La Salle-Mar Verdun. Mr. Speaker, it's with humility and gratitude that I rise today for the very courageous, generous, and resilient people. Whether it be young people who are getting involved in our schools, seniors who are transmitting their wisdom, newcomers who are building their future alongside us, or small businesses like the ones on Monk and Champlain Boulevards, and our Wellington Street in Verdun.
Member for Ponoka Didsbury.
Mr. Speaker, it's with a heavy heart that I rise today to honor the life and legacy of my friend Blair Bold of Ponoka, Alberta, who passed away on May 11, 2025. Born on October 13, 1955, Blair embodied what it means to be Albertan, hardworking, resilient, and devoted to his community. Best known for his life in cattle sales and service on local boards, including being president of the Ponoka Stampede. He was a man who earned tremendous respect and accomplishments in Alberta's business and agricultural community. Above all, Blair was a devoted husband to his beloved wife Cheryl, a proud father to Nansen, Labrie, Jenna, Sarah, and the late Cooper Tonneson, a loving son to Dolores and the late Ralph Bold, a cherished grandfather, a caring brother, a loyal human to his dog Odie, and a dear friend to all who knew him. Blair, I will miss our conversations, your welcoming and hospitable character, your charitable spirit, and the fun-loving, mischievous glint in your eye. Rest easy, cowboy.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, on Monday, First Ministers gathered in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I think it sent a very powerful message for all of us, whether we're inside this chamber or outside the chamber, where the people of Canada understand that in order to be able to get and build the strong Canadian economy that we need to counter the Trump, the tariffs, and the trade issues, that we need to come together. Political partisanship needs to be put to the side, as it was clearly demonstrated by the Prime Minister and the First Ministers in Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker. We can all learn by that, and hopefully we'll be able to work together in order to get the legislation that's so critically important to support what the First Ministers did in Saskatchewan just a day ago, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Middlesex, London.
To extend my heartfelt congratulations to the London Knights on their incredible Memorial Cup championship win. What a moment for Middlesex London and for Canadian hockey. With a dominant 4-1 victory, the Knights have claimed their third Memorial Cup title. This is a team that never stopped pushing, never stopped believing, and showed what it means to play with grit, determination, and heart. Easton Cowan from Strathroy made history as the first player since 1972 to lead the tournament in scoring back-to-back years with 7 goals in this series alone. He's earned his MVP title and made us all proud. To the coaches, staff, families, and especially the players, your dedication, discipline, and teamwork brought this championship home. You have inspired the next generation of young athletes across Middlesex London and beyond. This victory is a testament to the strength of local sports programs and the bright future of Canadian hockey. Congratulations to the London Knights. You've made history once again.
Yay!
The honourable member for Gaspésie, les Îles-de-la-Madeleine, Listigouche. Mr. Speaker, if you were flying overhead with a bird's eye view, it would be impossible to choose where to land. In the rugged mountains of Haute-Gaspésie, where the cliffs plunge straight into the depths of the sea. In the gentle Baie des Chaleurs, where happy songs echo between the sea and the mountains. At the breathtaking Percé Rock, in the dynamism of the Gaspé Peninsula, at the Gaspé Adventure Park, with our Micmac friends, on the stages of our festivals to hear the greatest talents in the world, on the banks of our exquisite rivers, La Matane, La Badpedia, La Nouvelle, La Cascapedia, La Bonaventure, La York, and many more. Well, you could spend many hours contemplating the peninsula from above. This peninsula with its many moods and colors, but ultimately it exudes one immense quality above all others. Gaspésie is a land of freedom. On June 5th, allow me to wish a happy Gaspésie Day to everyone who loves my part of the world.
The honourable member for Hamilton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, as I rise today in Parliament as a first-time MP from Hamilton Centre, it's with a deep gratitude. It's with deep gratitude to the people of Hamilton Centre. I thank them for placing their trust in me to serve as their Member of Parliament. It's a huge honor to represent our vibrant, diverse, and resilient community in this chamber. I also want to thank my wife, my children, and the incredible team of volunteers and the constituents who believed in me. Our government is committed to cutting taxes for the middle class, affordable housing, and strengthening our economy. The people of Hamilton Centre deserve nothing less than a government that shows up, listens, and delivers. I am here to do just that. Thank you, Hamilton Centre. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Edmonton Gateway.
Mr. Speaker, tonight the Stanley Cup Finals begin, and our Edmonton Oilers have once again brought the heart, the pride of Oil Country back to the finals. From Connor McDavid's incredible skills to Stuart Skinner's resilience in net, this team has shown Canadians what determination, teamwork, and dedication look like. Behind every goal and every save is a city united, cheering from living rooms to patios, and yes, even right here on Parliament Hill. This season, the energy is electric, and Canadians from coast to coast to coast are rallying behind a team that embodies grit, passion, and true Canadian spirit. In fact, the Toronto CN Tower and Montreal Champlain Bridge will be lit up in orange and blue tonight. Let's bring the Stanley Cup home, back from the U.S. to Canada, where it belongs. Go Oilers, go!
The honourable member for Tip. seems to be unanimity on this. The Honourable Member for Pierrefonds-Dollard.
Mr. Speaker, over the last several months, Canadians have felt the impacts of the groundbreaking dental care plan introduced by the previous Liberal government. Dès maintenant,
As of today, this plan is open to Canadians of all ages.
Cross-section of households don't have to choose between fixing one's teeth or putting food on the table. To help Pierrefonds-Dollard residents get coverage, Justin Myers, a PIP intern in my office, called hundreds of households to help them enroll.
Already over 10,000 people have signed up in my riding and will receive dental care.
The dental program is helping people, and that's because of collaboration within Parliament. If you live in Pierrefonds-Dollard and want info on the plan, call my office or visit canada.ca/dental. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Oxford.
After 10 years, the Liberals have destroyed. It used to work for newcomers, for Canadians, and for our country. But their radical policies have unleashed chaos. They ignored warnings from their own officials. They skipped vetting on applications, and they allowed fraud and abuse in our TFW, international students, and refugee programs. And now we have millions in Canada with expired or expiring visas, and we have yet to hear a plan from the Liberals on how they will leave. Under their watch, we've had the highest population growth in the G7. And now the OECD confirms that high immigration numbers are causing Canada's economic problems by putting pressure on housing and on jobs. And despite knowing this, the Liberals have already issued 180,000 new temporary foreign worker permits this year. That's a 10% increase already than last quarter. This is not sustainable. If Canadians, if the OECD, and the Bank of Canada know this, why don't the Liberals?
The Honourable Member for Cape Spear.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I recognize a significant milestone for North Atlantic, a proud Newfoundland and Labrador energy company with its planned acquisition of established energy assets in France. North Atlantic has entered exclusive negotiations to acquire a controlling interest in SAF and full ownership of ExxonMobil Chemical France, developing a green energy hub of low-carbon fuels and renewable power. This planned investment will strengthen our province's growing connections with Europe and enhance our energy security. North Atlantic's commitment to sustainable local growth is clear through its wind to hydrogen project, expansion of its transportation and retail operations, and plans for a green energy hub to export green energy to Europe. These initiatives will create opportunities for our people, our communities, and our economy. Newfoundland and Labrador companies are not just participants.
Oshawa.
Costs for years, but this year it's spiraling out of control. Families, seniors, and hardworking Canadians are being pushed to the brink, struggling to afford even the basics. I left the grocery store last week after paying $100 for just 2 bags. The basics, no meat and only enough to feed my family for a couple of days. Beef is up 33%, oranges 26%, infant formula up 9%. In Oshawa, Simcoe Hall Settlement House, who has been serving our community for 90 years, is being pushed to its limits with a staggering 55% increase in food bank usage, including from dual-income families. But single moms like me are among the hardest hit and now represent the largest group relying on their support. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are not asking for luxuries, they're asking for groceries. It's time for this Liberal government to get serious, table a budget, and tackle the rising cost of food.
Well done. The Honourable Member for Burlington.
First time I rise in the House, this Parliament. Let me begin by thanking the good people of Burlington for electing me to a 4th consecutive It is a real privilege to be their voice and stand for them in this place. Speaking of the good people of Burlington, it brings me tremendous pride to highlight Kirthana Srinivasan, a grade 12 student at Aldershot High School. Kirthana won first place in Samsung Canada's Solve for Tomorrow contest. Her system analysis and reporting for advanced hardware is an innovative algorithm designed to detect and locate faults in large-scale solar farms, significantly reducing downtime and improving the efficiency of renewable energy systems. Her project is a powerful example of how youth are using their creativity and skills to build a better future for us all. Wow. Congratulations to Kearthana and the entire Aldershot High School team.
Here, here. Questions orales, oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Let's be clear. Trump's tariffs on Canada are wrong, unjustified, and attack on our workers and our economy. Now, while other countries have got deals to lower their tariffs, not only has the PM failed to do that, but he's got Canada's tariffs doubled on steel and aluminum. He promised he was the man with the plan. He can't even get a deal. Our workers are terrified about losing their jobs. And he promised that he'd collect $20 billion in retaliatory tariffs, but then secretly drop those tariffs to zero during the campaign. If he's so sure that he's still going to collect $20 billion, why not table a budget and prove it to Canadians?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the American tariffs, the new tariffs on steel and aluminum, are unlawful, unjustified, and illogical. I agree with that. That is why, one of the reasons why we have retaliatory tariffs on over $90 billion worth of U.S. goods. We are in intensive negotiations with the Americans and in parallel preparing reprisals if those negotiations do not succeed.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, one way to deal with the Americans is from a position of strength. But now the Prime Minister is saying that he won't even approve a new pipeline unless there is consensus. This is already unraveling. The radical BC Premier says no pipeline through his province. There's not even consensus in the Liberal cabinet, with top ministers committed to killing oil and gas projects. The vast majority of Canadians don't want to give a veto to politicians. They want to be less dependent on the Americans and to earn more powerful paychecks from selling our oil and gas around the world. Will the Prime Minister show some leadership and commit to approving a pipeline today?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians from Shawinigan to Saskatoon and the premiers and Prime Minister that represent them have agreed on the importance of building projects of national interest. The consensus that's required includes a consensus with Indigenous peoples, something that the members opposite do not like. We will stand with Indigenous Canadians. We will build pipelines, energy infrastructure, and the future of this great country.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
If photo ops and phony rhetoric actually got things done in this country, then Justin Trudeau would still be Prime Minister. In all seriousness, the Liberals' $500 billion in new spending without a budget will make inflation worse. The PM said that he wants to be judged by prices at the grocery store. So let's look at those prices. The verdict is in. Beef up 34%, apples up 18%, coffee up 9%. Will the Prime Minister listen to Parliament and table a budget that controls spending, lowers taxes, and cuts inflation so Canadians can afford to put food on the table?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased for the first time to hear the members opposite talk about lowering taxes.
That's right.
In front of this House. First time in my hearing, Mr. Speaker, before the House is a tax cut for 22 million Canadians up to $840. They want their support.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-Lévis. This House requires a budget from this Liberal government. They approved $500 million in new inflationary spending without tabling a budget. They have broken their promise to limit spending and have increased it by 8%. Meanwhile, missed mortgage payments are hitting record highs, and food banks are increasingly overwhelmed. Can the Liberals respect this House motion and table a budget right now? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the bill that is before this House is one that will reduce taxes for the middle class. For 22 million Canadians, they need to support it. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-Lévis. Prices have skyrocketed. Beef tenderloin is up 34%, origins up 26%, rice up 14%, and even infant formula is up 9%. And after 10 years under these Liberals, families are eating less and less well and are increasingly turning to food banks. And now the Liberals want to spend another $500 million with no budget or plan. Do they realize, well, they need to table a budget to reduce inflation and lower taxes so Canadians can finally put food on the table? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, what is before this House is an increase in transfers for health of 5%. Spending for supporting seniors, we have to vote for this. And a tax cut and a GST cut for new homes as well. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was elected by promising that he would stand up to President Trump. And then he said he was the man with a plan for this trade wall. Yet, aluminum, an important sector for Saguenay, has been hit by unjustified tariffs of 50%. And we know the Liberals. They say one thing, but they can't deliver the goods. Mr. Speaker, was the Prime Minister's entire election campaign just a political spectacle? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the U.S. tariffs are illegal and unjustified. They're absolutely illogical, clearly. We are in negotiations, intense negotiations with the Americans, and at the same time, we are preparing our reprisals with respect to aluminum. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, since this government was elected, has dreamed of a bill for big national projects. But in the meantime, what we stopped talking about since the election was the fact that President Trump was doubling tariffs on aluminum and on steel, threatening thousands of jobs. What will this government do? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we need to do several things at the same time. First, we have to build our economy, build it with legislation with just one Canadian economy instead of 13. We have to build it with national projects, and we have to negotiate with the Americans. And these negotiations are at a very delicate moment right now, but we are going to win just like the Oilers, Edmonton Oilers will. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Yesterday, his ministers said what their agenda was when they were asked questions, but the government was elected because there was a crisis. The Prime Minister even said he wouldn't be here if there was no crisis. So we have to negotiate with the Americans, yes, but we also have to immediately provide support to companies in the steel and aluminum sector. What are you doing? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I'd like to remind the member that he has to ask his question through the chair. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As I've just said, we have to do several things at the same time. We are doing negotiations with the Americans, yes, of course, but at the same time, we're providing support for companies in the steel aluminum sector with funding and support for workers and several other types of support with public supply, like the minister mentioned yesterday. The honourable member for Ballet-Chambly. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, these industrial sectors in question, who we've spoken to, have not heard of any support in any way. Yet, we have put forward a wage subsidy bill inspired from what we had during the pandemic. So employers are very concerned right now, and they don't want to lose expertise they have. And we're talking about dozens and thousands of jobs that are at stake. Is the Prime Minister ready to rapidly establish a wage subsidy program for companies? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we have already strengthened employment insurance, and we have made a commitment to give all of the money raised from counter tariffs to the workers and the companies most affected by these unjustified and illegal U.S. tariffs.
The honourable member for Middlesex, London.
Trump's 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum are wrong and an unjustified attack on our Canadian economy. This means that manufacturers in Middlesex, London are cutting shifts, delaying investment, and relocating to the U.S. These tariffs are a direct threat to Canadian jobs and our economic sovereignty. He promised Canadians he would defend us. He said he had a plan. But in responding to the U.S., this Prime Minister's elbows have gone limp. So I asked the Prime Minister, was the entire Liberal campaign just theatre? Yeah.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Speaker, I would agree with the colleague. It's wrong. It's very wrong. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, we had one of our colleagues in Washington yesterday to fight for Canadians, to fight for our workers, to fight for industry. This is not theater. This is action, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we know what makes a difference is to fight, to protect our workers, to protect our industry, and to build this Canada with Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum, Canadian workers. Mr. Speaker, we're going to build Canada strong together.
The honourable member for Middlesex, London.
Canadians don't need more photo ops. They need somebody to fight for them and actually get results. During the campaign, Trump actually endorsed the Liberal Prime Minister, and it's no wonder why. The Prime Minister said his government would collect $20 billion from U.S. tariffs. That was his big talking point. But when the pressure came, he went to his friend Trump and quietly dropped all those tariffs, leaving our steel and aluminum workers blindsided and betrayed. So, Mr. Speaker, will the Liberals listen to Parliament, be transparent, and table a budget so that Canadians can see how much, if anything, was ever collected from the so-called elbows up tariffs?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, instead of talking down Canada, she should be elbow up with us, Mr. Speaker. This is about making sure that as a chamber, this House should stand united, Mr. Speaker. This is about our nation. We're fighting a trade war. Everyone in this House have a responsibility to fight for Canadian workers, fight for Canadian industry, to build Canada strong. Mr. Speaker, we get it on this side of the House. I hope on the other side they get it because Canadians get it at home.
I hope the wind isn't too bad, but I have to say, I'm just going to say the Liberals have been very, very feisty and fighting back, and their arguments are sinking. They're with me, right? And this is all theater, but I do think that the Liberals, they've really stepped it up, and I think they actually are in alignment with most Canadians, which is a good thing because we just had an election. Most people don't want another election.
Campaign. Then he paused our counter tariffs and said he didn't think the U.S. would impose any more. Now the tariffs have only gotten worse. Canadian Steel now faces 50% tariff threat from President Trump. Algoma Steel is warning that its U.S. business may become unviable. Thousands of jobs, including many in my riding of Hamilton and Niagara area, are at risk. If the Prime Minister has gone soft, what was the entire Liberal campaign based on? Just theater?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
The members
riding are extremely important, and I look forward to working with him to make sure that they're saved and protected. And we should all be working together as people across the country are looking at this government and these politicians, because this trade war that was launched against Canada is existential, and it is putting livelihoods of thousands of Canadians at risk. So that's why we have a plan. We will fight, we will protect, and we will build, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Richmond, Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, Trump's tariffs are unjustified to our Canadian workers. The Prime Minister said during his election campaign that he would collect $20 billion from the U.S., but he secretly abandoned these tariffs. And this morning it was a brutal wake-up call. Aluminum and steel workers and their families are extremely worried. Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister look at workers and their families and tell them how much money they have actually received in tariffs and how much they can get? The Honourable Minister of Finance. It would be a great pleasure to look at people in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, because I was there often, because people there know there will always be there for aluminum workers. Mr. Speaker, like the Prime Minister has said, all of the funds raised from these retaliatory tariffs will be given to these workers, and this money will be reinvested to help our workers. People in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean know that we'll be there for them. We were there last year, and we'll be there today and tomorrow as well.
Member for Thornhill.
Will hold account by their experiences at the grocery store. Those are the words of the Prime Minister. So let's see what the new stats say about his performance. Since the start of 2025, the price of rice has gone up 14%, the price of potatoes 13%, the price of infant formula 9%, and beef a whopping 33% up. By that measure, he's failing miserably. The Prime Minister claimed that he had a plan for inflation, but all Canadians got was another $500 billion of spending with no budget. So where is it?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
They have the volume. It's not me. It's actually the feed, the volume of the feed. They have it in the switchboard room. So he's talking just like I did yesterday, and no one can hear him besides those in the room. You can hear the people moving around. That's not me. That's literally someone made an error in the translation booth. It's still going on. They don't have the feed in the booth.
The Honourable Minister.
Here we go. We're back.
Of Government Transformation.
Mr. Speaker, and we have used the use of consultants to answer the first part of our questions, and we are working on a strong mandate to make government more efficient so that we can deliver more for Canadians, which is exactly what we're doing with a tax cut, Mr. Speaker, for 22 million Canadians. I'm hoping Conservatives can rally behind this very common sense idea. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Newmarket, Aurora.
When mothers go grocery shopping, it's about their kids. They would rather go hungry than see them go without. In Newmarket, I met a mother of 3 little boys in tears. She didn't know what she was going to feed them the following week. And who can blame her? 2 bags of groceries now cost $100 and barely last 2 days. The Liberals' inflation is the slow undoing of a family's dignity. Yet the Liberals plan to continue their inflationary spending. Will they present a budget this spring and reduce spending, or will they continue to ask parents to pay for their broken promises?
The Honourable Minister for Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, nobody should go hungry in this country, and that's why we've taken extraordinary measures to support families, just like the member's constituents that she spoke about. Since 2015, Mr. Speaker, child poverty is down by 38%. We've got a ways to go, but we've got to continue working together to get the full benefits of this work.
Said there would only be pipelines if there was consensus. As it turns out, BC's Premier has said no. Several Liberal MPs are opposed, and even within the Prime Minister's own head, there seems to be opposition, because on the one hand, he says, yes, we're going to go ahead and become the energy superpower, and on the other hand, he says, no, oil needs to stay in the ground. The Prime Minister clearly has no plan to get things done, so why is he putting his elbows down and making us beholden to the United States of America?
Here, here. The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, what we saw on Monday were 13 provinces and territories working together to build the strongest economy in the G7. The premiers and the government are focused on building a strong Canadian economy. What we see from my colleagues across the floor are attempts to divide and to block development. I hope Conservatives will join with us in building a strong Canada.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Of non-answer that has become accustomed to these Liberals. Grand gestures, meetings, and press conferences will not get things done, even though the Prime Minister seems to believe that's the case. But what would move things forward, of course, is a plan to scrap Bill C-69, the No New Pipelines Act, a plan to scrap Bill C-48, a plan to scrap the job-killing oil and gas cap that exists, the industrial carbon tax. Let's get rid of that as well. Is the Prime Minister simply turning a blind eye to these things, or does he just not know how to get things done?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
If my honourable colleague was listening to what happened in Saskatoon, the premiers and the Prime Minister have a plan to fast-track projects, to get projects done within 2 years, and to build the strongest economy in the G7. Why don't you guys get on? Why don't my colleagues get on board?
The honourable member for Central Newfoundland.
Mr. Speaker, no consensus. That's reality this week on getting Western oil and gas to Tidewater. There is consensus in Newfoundland and Labrador today where the VOCM poll shows 74% agree that the Liberal oil and gas cap is an investment killer. No pipelines are required to get Newfoundland and Labrador's 2.5 billion barrels of oil to world markets, or its 12.5 trillion cubic feet of gas to Tidewater. It's already there. So will the Prime Minister put his money where his mouth is and get rid of his investment-killing cap and bring prosperity back to the Atlantic Canadian oil and gas patch?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
We will build and protect our economy from American tariffs and win the trade war. But to find new markets for Canadian energy, emissions in every barrel of oil must be reduced.
All right, for the two people that I see on my feed, I'm not like anti-industrialization or anything. I love industry. I love when you look over at the Burlington Skyway and you see all that wonderful Stelco steel. It was huge. It was like the size of a city, and stuff like that. I'm concerned, to be honest, about why is the Conservative Party? It's like the only industry that they seem to speak about. They do have some housing, and I hope that comes out. But the only industry they're talking about is one industry, and it's oil, and it really has had its day. It's literally on the decline big time. They just found the easiest this type of oil that's down in Venezuela. Really good. It like comes out golden kind of stuff. And Saudi Arabia and all this. Our oil is not as good as that stuff. And oil is just on a huge decline. Remember, I'm not anti-plane or car. That's where you put oil. But these are both going electric and very within short order. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not against oil. But when I only hear one thing from every single Conservative member is oil, 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 oil. It's like it's the party of oil, and that's all they got. Okay, I hope they got on the housing, because the housing minister, I feel sorry for him. He's going to take this for a couple of years, and he has no real good argument except, we'll take off a couple nickels off of the price. I just think when you have a meal, it's not one thing on there. You don't just put olive oil on there and eat that. There's bread, there's beef, there's peas, there's gravy. There's carrots, right? And that's an industry, and that's what I think that they should be fighting for. All industry, not just personally. One, it seems they're maybe it's where their funding is coming from. I don't know, but I personally think it's going to it'll help them shrink in the polls, which will help the Liberals lead. So maybe that's their plan, but it just I'm all about good rhetoric. And it seems that it's too biased, too much leaning into the oil. And most Canadians are not for oil. Like I said, I worked in the oil industry, and I'm not. And I see the end of it, right? Planes definitely need oil because there's no batteries light enough. Yet they actually invented a lithium battery. It's lithium gas, and it'll actually work. But like I said, like the cars are already out. We just tariff the crap out of them so we could save jobs. So once we get that technology here and these battery plants are built, 5 years from now, I think there's gonna be a shift, personally. But what do I know? I'm just labor.
Serious investment in carbon capture must happen. We will build the strongest low-cost, low-risk, low-carbon economy in the G7.
The Honourable Member for Regina Louvain.
That sounds like a hard no to me. Saskatchewan people want to build pipelines. To secure and grow Canada's economy, we must develop a world-class energy sector. The anti-energy NDP Premier BC has stated there will be no new pipelines in BC. Anti-development extremists in the Prime Minister's cabinet have dedicated their careers to keeping Canadian oil and gas in the ground, like the Heritage Minister, like the Environment Minister. If this Prime Minister can't get consensus within his own cabinet, how will we ever get a pipeline built in our country?
The The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Again, I would say they need to go, my honourable colleagues need to look at the tapes. The Premier of Saskatchewan was supportive. The Premier of Alberta was supportive. The representative from British Columbia was supportive. Why can't our colleagues get supportive and help us build the strongest economy in the G7?
The Honourable Member for Medicine Hat, Cardston Warner.
The Prime Minister and his energy ministers say there will be no pipelines without a consensus, but buzzwords don't build pipelines. How is consensus realistic when the BC's NDP Premier has already ruled out a new pipeline? There's currently no proponent for an eastern pipeline, and the Prime Minister himself calls for Canada to be an energy superpower one day, and the next day insists that half the other reserves need to stay in the ground. Half of the PM's own cabinet wanted to see Canada's oil industries die and spent the past decade trying to kill it. If the Prime Minister can't find consensus within his own cabinet, how does he plan to approve a pipeline?
Exactly.
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Again, we've answered this question. Premier Moe said it was the best meeting he has been to as a premier. Best First Minister meeting. Premier Smith said it was we have an opportunity for a grand bargain. Why don't you help us get to the grand bargain?
I'll remind the Honourable Minister to go through the chair. The Honourable Member for Vancouver Quadra.
Mr. Speaker, last week my hometown of Vancouver hosted North America's first Web Summit, an event highlighted Canada's vibrant tech sector and its potential on the global stage. This conference brought together leading innovators and investors from around the world, underscoring the significant opportunities for growth in our AI ecosystem. Will the Minister of Artificial Intelligence share with this House how the government plans to solidify Canada's position as a global leader in tech and attract more investment and talent to our country?
The Honourable Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
I want to thank my colleague for the question. Let me first also take this opportunity to thank the people of Toronto Centre for placing their trust in me as their MP. I also want to thank my volunteers and my family for their support. Monsieur le Président, we were very happy to support the Web Summit in Vancouver. It reinforces our commitment to keep Canada's world-class AI system and ecosystem strong, safe, and sovereign. Just last week, we saw 2 Canadian companies announce billions of dollars in new investments to build 8 new AI data centers from Kamloops to Rebusky. We are building the economy of the future right now.
A little bit of name envy. King Solomon is like, who is here is the smartest in the
report, nearly half of
first-time
the richest
home
king
buyers
feel
in
that they're
history.
paying too much for their home, and 63%
Just
are
like to
concerned
have
about the
his mind.
possibility of defaulting on their mortgage payments, Mr. Speaker, citing interest rates, the cost of living, and reduced income as reasons why. And this is the direct result of 10 years of this Liberal plan in action, Mr. Speaker, and it's why Canadians deserve to see a plan to fix it now. So on what date will the Liberals table a budget, including a plan for housing, so that Canadians can afford to have a roof over their heads?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, to the member opposite, you'll have an opportunity to support a GST cut for first-time home buyers that is in front of us right now. We look forward to your support on that and giving new home buyers $50,000 break on their purchases up to $1 million. We look forward to your support on that and your support on the cut to income taxes for 22 million Canadians so they can afford housing more.
That's an excellent point.
Honourable Member for Kenora Kiiwetinoong.
The minister wants to pretend that all is going well, but the facts from his own department show that first-time home buyers are struggling. 60% have difficulty maintaining their debt payments, Mr. Speaker. But that is not all. Recently, TD Bank has cast doubt on the Liberal promise to build more homes, stating that new home starts are actually going to decline next year, Mr. Speaker. Housing starts go down, the prices go up, and we have yet another failed Liberal promise. So I will ask again, on what date will we see a federal budget that includes a plan for housing so that Canadians can afford a home?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
The Minister of the Liberals that has the worst
Housing
possible
challenges
job
have
for at least a couple of years.
Certainly the decade of inaction from the Conservative government. We are taking action. This new government in Canada is focused on delivering on housing, up to 500,000 housing starts. That's using every tool in the toolbox, starting with a break on GST, starting with the important moves that we're making to create Build Canada homes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hey, I got some ideas for his rhetoric. Of course, you have to pay me for it. But honestly, the GST cut, it's better not even say that. Yes, it is a good thing. You could use that the day it comes out, but everyone knows it's 50,000 on a million. It ain't enough. It ain't much. It isn't enough to make any to shift the needle. It's all he's got. In his defense, I'm not trying to defend the Liberal case. It's just in his defense, that's all he's got. He got the $25 billion that's going to prefabricated houses, companies. The companies that make prefabricated homes, that's going to take a year at least to see some fruition, and I hope I eat my words, and one of them comes out with a genius way on how to build homes in a factory cheaper, better, faster, and nicer. I hope that comes out of that. But this guy, he's got the worst job of all the Liberals, and I think it's the strongest talking point that the Conservatives have used. And hey, he's got a couple more things in his bag, a couple more ideas of rhetoric he could use. He hasn't used them yet. I'm not here to, but it's definitely an unenvious job. What he's got. He's got like literally a year or two. The way that this plan is, to see something happening. It's possible it'll be huge and transformative. But I believe that the Prime Minister has to help him fix this file. He can't do it himself. With the money, the $100 billion they've spent or whatever it is, the real money is probably around $50 billion. And I don't think it'll do anything. And he's just basically got to eat it from the Conservatives. And until it becomes a real point of pain, I don't think we're going to see much movement by the Prime Minister. It's just going to be increased wages. My biggest thing is I think they should do is a temperature pressure valve. So open up cities for the great unwashed like myself that would love to move to a new whatever for these new projects and cold places that most people haven't wanted to go. First of all, I love the cold. I wouldn't mind 9 months of winter, real winter. And second of all, if you can afford a home with a little bit of a plot, maybe have a little your own greenhouse. Of course, you'll have to have a greenhouse up there to grow anything. Hey, it's a fantastic thing. It actually could really quickly alleviate it because it gives them to something to say, oh, you know what I mean? To someone who's come, I can't afford a home in Niagara Falls. They're like, yeah, but didn't you hear about that project they got up there? Whether they go or not, it gives not just the government people, it gives the people in that area. They're like, well, why don't you go up there? Don't complain to me. There's an answer, right? And that lowers it for everybody. That's my opinion, and no one's listening, so I appreciate the one that is here.
Mr. Speaker, the picture for first-time homebuyers is very grim right now. 63%, nearly two-thirds, fear they're going to default because of rising costs and rising interest rates that have happened on this Liberal government's watch. 26% are using debt and credit to pay off debt. Now, Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister may not know you have to pay off debt, but ordinary Canadians do. Canadians deserve a plan. Canadians deserve a budget that puts housing first. Now, this government needs to listen to Parliament, listen to Canadians, and deliver a budget so Canadians can put a roof on their head, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Speaker, well, I think Canadians spoke loud and clear in electing members to this side of the House to deliver on housing.
Yeah, that's right.
This government, your new government, has put forward the most aggressive plan to build affordable housing that this country's ever seen, and it starts today with a break on GST for new home buyers.
Excellent. Yes, excellent.
Member for Edmonton Manning.
Mr. Speaker, TD Bank says the Prime Minister housing policy promises aren't enough for the federal government to reach its goal of 500,000 new units annually over the next decade. In fact, housing starts are expected to decline next year. His proposed new bureaucracy won't build any homes. There is too much red tape. Canadians deserve better. When will the government table a budget so Canadians can learn if they have any plan to put a roof over their head?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, we have a number of action steps in play right now, as I have answered repeatedly in this House, on a cut to the GST for new home buyers. We're going to take action as well on the income tax and reducing that for 22 million Canadians. These are affordability measures that are for right now. Build Canada Homes is on the way in to bring us a huge number of new affordable homes. And I hope the members opposite will support these efforts.
Great answer.
L'honorable député de Montmorency-Charlevoix.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
The honourable member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Well, Mr. Speaker, a recent CMHC poll shows that 63% of new home buyers are concerned that they may default on their mortgage shortly, mostly because of the increase in the cost of living, the increase in mortgage rates, and the worsening of the economic situation. People in Montmorency, Charlevoix, and elsewhere in Canada are taking out debt in order to pay off other debts. So, Mr. Speaker, can we finally get a budget so that Canadians can actually budget for their own future? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Well, Mr. Speaker, there will indeed be a budget. But the first thing this government brought forward is an affordability plan. And people in Charlevoix are interested in that. Why? Because they know that there will be a tax cut. That's great news for people in Charlevoix. And there's more good news. For first-time home buyers of a new home, they will not be seeing any GST on this new home up to $1 million. These are concrete measures that will help people. Conservatives should be delighted that this Liberal government is helping people.
Member for Caribou, Prince George.
In my hometown of Williams Lake, with a population of 10,000, 6 prolific offenders commit 98% of the crime. When they're in jail, crime rate goes down. When they're out on the streets, crime rate goes up. Businesses can't even get the mandatory insurance anymore due to high rates of vandalism. On top of this, our communities are faced with an out-of-control overdose crisis. Last week, Williams Lake saw an average of 20 to 30 overdoses per day. If he's the man with a plan, will the Prime Minister rise today and tell us what his plan is to confront the overdose crisis, lock up repeat offenders, and make our communities safe?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our plan to keep communities safe will keep drugs, guns, and criminals off our streets. As the first bill that's to be debated tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, will be the Borders Bill, and we're expecting that the Conservative Party will support it in order for us to keep fentanyl off our streets, guns off our streets, make sure that illicit fundraising is curtailed, and to ensure that our communities are safer. If they want to put their action behind their talk, it is time for them to act and support this bill and get this through Parliament, Mr. Speaker.
Member for York Centre.
Last night in North Toronto, a man was shot to death and at least 5 others were wounded. 3 masked men opened gunfire steps away from the Yorkdale Mall. It's not clear if or how many bystanders were hit. The Liberal record on crime is no accident. Liberal Bills C5 and C75 put repeat criminals back on the streets, unleashing crime and chaos on the streets of Toronto. Gun crimes more than doubled under the Liberals. The solution is simple. Repeal soft on crime Liberal laws. When will the Liberals get serious about deadly shootings in Toronto and across Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I'm deeply saddened by the news coming out of the City of Toronto this morning. The gun violence is unacceptable and perpetrators must be brought to justice. We're partnering with police services across the country to fight organized crime and disrupt firearm smuggling and trafficking operations. The Strong Borders Act, introduced in this House yesterday, includes provisions to crack down on illegal firearms and organized crime. I look forward to working with the member opposite towards passing this important legislation, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to work tirelessly to support police across Canada.
The Honourable Member for Vernon Lake Country, Monashee.
Mr. Speaker, as a former City Councillor on the front lines of this emergency,
I watched from 2015 to today as Liberal policy simply made the opioid crisis worse. Each new policy just makes things worse.
That's right.
Decriminalization isn't a case of not doing enough, it's a case of doing too much of the wrong thing. Conservatives are calling for life sentences for fentanyl kingpins committing mass murder. When will this Liberal government recognize that Canadians battling addictions are worth fighting for? When will it stop enabling harm and start supporting real recovery instead of palliative care?
Great question.
Honourable Minister.
Okay, so what I think is what that plan will do, it will not stop the fentanyl, okay, for life in prison for something. What it will do, 100%, it'll skyrocket the price of fentanyl. And apparently, I heard this from someone on the street. The guy says that's what these kids want. He said kids because he's like, these kids, like he was a social worker. He's like, I shouldn't call him, but they weren't all kids. He says that's what they want. He's like, they want this crap. He goes, it's cheap. It's cheap. It lasts them a long time. This is what they're all looking for. So this, and I don't know personally, never tried this stuff. I'm not, I like coffee stuff, like drinking and cigarettes and the odd joint, like literally that's where I was when I stopped all that. But besides, nothing to do with me. This crisis, I believe, what they have to do is from my searching through the social worker is skyrocket the price so that they're not like there's the kids, the youth isn't first of all can't afford it, and then other things are comparable. Right? But now it's just so cheap for how much they get. That's what they're looking for. And it's very dangerous. Apparently, they say it's 50 times more addictive than heroin. And like exactly, I'm taking this conservative politician's thing. Back in my day, no one touched, like heroin was like professional drug people that touched that. It wasn't around like, you know what I mean, or college and stuff like that. Like it was professional drug users. They had, those were the ones. And now this is like this fentanyl. Apparently, obviously it's everywhere. We have more overdose deaths than the States, so it's obviously in every avenue of life. But by this guy's idea will skyrocket, and I think there's other ideas too. They need to skyrocket the price of this stuff, so at least it doesn't have. Like there's no sales pitch. It's like outrageously expensive. You can go away for a long time. The cops are only the cops will let you go if you have this or that. Contraband cigarettes, they'll let you go, but they're not letting you go if you got that stuff. You know what I mean? And then eradicate. I believe you eradicate the worst level. Like myself, eradicated the first thing first is drinking. And then cigarettes, and then cannabis as much as humanly possible. It's been months, 6, even longer maybe. But that's and then bring in the good stuff. But right now, like health, water, drink, But this is what I believe they have to do is try to do that. The most egregious things, make it into beyond the point of what people want to buy. It'll always be a market for it. But at least the kids and the young and the poor won't be looking for that as an answer. And maybe, you know what I mean, at the same time we got to find work for the great unwashed or education.
Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, the fentanyl crisis has impacted communities across Canada and across North America. We're accelerating the work to crack down and dismantle the fentanyl trade and organized crime groups that profit from it. That's why we listed 7 cartels as terrorist entities under the criminal code. I'm working closely with Kevin Brasso, Canada's fentanyl czar, at home and abroad to put a laser-sharp focus on dismantling fentanyl. We will put those profiting from this drug behind bars. Mr. Speaker, we expect the border bill, support for the border bill from my friend opposite and across the aisle. This is a very
the honourable member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, last week in Cambridge, police arrested 2 individuals at the Galt bus terminal and seized 10 grams of suspected fentanyl, enough to cause up to 5,000 deaths. Police are doing their part, but this Liberal government's soft on crime policies are letting drug kingpins get away with mass murder. Conservatives are calling for life sentences for those convicted of trafficking more than 40 milligrams of fentanyl. When will this Liberal government treat fentanyl like the deadly weapon it is and make those who profit from it face real consequences?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the first measures that this new government has taken is presenting a Stronger Borders Act. This is cracking down on fentanyl, auto theft, money laundering, illegal firearms, irregular migration, and organized crime. Mr. Speaker, we'll also make it tougher for violent criminals to get bail and impose stricter sentences on repeat offenders. We'll work until violent criminals are put behind bars. This government will do everything it takes to make Canadians safe.
The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, before my election, I had the privilege of being Canada's ambassador to the OECD, and I saw there that the rules-based international system creates outcomes for workers, improves affordability for consumers, and helps businesses to innovate and grow. The rest of the world needs what Canada has to offer. But the free trade system that we had counted on is now under threat. Recently, President Trump brought up tariffs on steel and aluminum to 50%. The Minister of Industry has told us that she's very engaged with businesses and unions. So I would like to ask the Minister to tell us about this.
L'Honorable Ministre de l'Industrie.
The Honourable Minister of Industry. I'd like to thank my colleague for her important question and for her hard work in Thérèse de Blainville. It goes without saying that we are currently in a trade war. And we believe that these tariffs are completely unacceptable, illegal, and unjustified. That's why we're in solutions mode. And we will invest in major national projects that will create jobs throughout the country, including in steel and aluminum. We will also diversify our markets to ensure that Canadian steel and aluminum can be sold elsewhere in the world.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
The Prime Minister said that we should judge him by the prices at the grocery store. Well, beef prices, apples, rice, infant formula, so many things are all up in price. Well, do you know what else is up? It's food bank use. Now, Canadians have to budget, especially during hard times, and that's exactly what they expected from the self-described man with the plan. Canadians need to see a budget from this Liberal government so that they can see what the plan is to reverse 10 years of Liberal tax increases and the effects of their inflationary spending. When will we see a budget?
L'Honorable Ministre des Finances.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure my colleague will be happy because we're actually reducing tax for 22 million Canadians. I'm sure he's going to rejoice this evening because tomorrow or in the coming days he will have the opportunity to put his vote where his mouth is, Mr. Speaker, because he wants to support reducing taxes. Well, we'll give him a great opportunity to vote for reducing tax for 22 million Canadians. I know Canadians are going to be watching at home. We're going to be watching on this side of the aisle to make sure he does the right thing for Canadians.
Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
It was this Prime Minister that said that the metric that he should be judged by is the price of food at grocery stores. And prices are up, and so is food bank use. And we have been calling relentlessly for them to put a budget in front of this House. And in fact, Parliament has spoken and has said that this Prime Minister must put a budget forward this spring. So the Prime Minister hasn't delivered on his promise to lower food prices or deliver affordable food. Will he at least respect the will of Parliament, respect the majority of members in this House who have called on him to produce a budget so we can see that plan?
Hear, hear. Honorable Ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, we take note of the vote of Parliament, but in fact, the people in his riding and my folks from Shawinigan will be watching to make sure that the Conservatives are actually voting in line with their values, Mr. Speaker, because next, in the coming days, they will have this great opportunity. We're giving them a golden opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to show to Canadians that they care, that they want to reduce their taxes, that they want to help 22 million Canadians. We're all going to be watching if they're going to do the right thing. We certainly hope so, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Edmonton Southeast.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are getting crushed at the grocery store. Food inflation since the start of this year is out of control. Beef is up by 34%. Oranges are up by 26%, and the list goes on. 10 years of liberal inflationary deficit have record number of Canadians going into food banks. Single mothers watering down milk for their kids. Canadians eating less nutritious food. Liberals now increasing spending by 8%, which they promised at 2%. Will they table a budget that will actually reduce inflation so Canadians can afford to feed their...
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, since 2015, we've seen a significant decrease, not only in child poverty, but in youth poverty, in seniors poverty. That means, Mr. Speaker, that the measures that we're putting into place to support Canadians, whether it's the Canada Child Benefit or dental care, Mr. Speaker, whether it's affordable child care across this country, Mr. Speaker, it's working for Canadian families. Of course we need to do more. Of course we need to stand up to the United States, and we'll do that, as my colleagues have outlined. But these Conservatives need to get on board and be part of the solution.
Honourable Member for Spadina Harbourfront.
Mr. Speaker, my waterfront riding of Spadina Harbourfront in downtown Toronto is proud to host many Canadian Armed Force members, from the Army to the Air Forces to the Navy. Every year, about 8,200 members are released from the Canadian Armed Forces, and roughly half of them are looking to start new careers. Can the Minister of Veterans Affairs share with us how the National Veterans Employment Strategy is supporting veterans who are seeking new career opportunities?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, as the Minister of Veterans Affairs, it's an honour to answer my first question here in the House. Thank you to my honourable colleague for the question. The National Veterans Employment Strategy focuses on connecting veterans to good jobs, expanding access to skills training, and supporting entrepreneurship. It also recognizes veteran-ready employers and strengthens hiring in the public service. I'm proud to build more opportunities for our veterans.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, Donald Trump brought in 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum. This is a frontal attack on our economy and Canadian workers. I spoke this morning with 2 steel producers in my riding, and we can see that the effects of these tariffs will be devastating. $200 million will be lost in trade with the U.S. Hundreds of jobs are at stake. This Prime Minister during the campaign said that he would stand up to President Trump, but now the Liberal government isn't doing anything. What would this Prime Minister say to the constituents of Beauce who are very worried about this? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I fully understand and respect my colleague's point of view, and that's why I'll be very pleased to work with him in order to help the Beauce businesses he mentioned. We are preparing funds to help these businesses. Let's work together. Together, let's stand up to the American government, which is bringing in these illegal, unjustified tariffs.
For Saanich, Gulf Islands.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. I was going to ask the Prime Minister a question about nation-building projects, but then today Tina called our office, and she got my Chief of Staff on the phone and started explaining that she's a mom with disabilities, and she can't figure out how she's going to feed her children, and she started crying on the phone. And so here's a nation-building project question. Checks start going to Canadians with disabilities in July, but they're a lousy maxed out at $200 a month. How about a nation-building project to lift all Canadians with disabilities out of poverty?
Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to the member opposite for having such compassion for the constituents in her riding, as we do all across the country. People who are living with disabilities have the right to be fully included in community. They have the right to live decent lives, just like the rest of us. That's why this government is proceeding with the Canada Disability Credit. That's why we are also working with provinces and territories, including most recently Ontario, to commit to ensuring that that money will not be clawed back from other benefits.
And that concludes today's question period. I'll give members a moment to leave if they have to before we go to routine. Daily
Surprising.
routine of business.
There's been no point of orders of late. Andrew Scheer being a house, I think it has been running. I think you got to bow to the main guy. But overall, I like the way, I guess it's McInnes. He's there. He's talking to Dab. He's running this question period. He's doing, I think he's doing a really good job of mixing it up. I found sometimes it got a little bit tedious, and I bet you really when Trudeau did the whole question period, I don't know if it really. It was unique, and I did like it at first, but I didn't after a while, because it gave every single individual speaker a chance to swing at Trudeau and Trudeau to swing back. But what it did do, in hindsight, it actually is pretty good, because now these ministers seem like they're finally coming up, right? And they won't be as associated in question period with the thing. So it was okay. He shouldered the burden. But I enjoy that the way, never mind the past, the forward, the way it's being done. Carney goes and has the questions, and then his finance minister, and then the industrial minister does questions, and then as appropriate, according to the questions. And then there is also a couple in between, his heavy hitters get to answer a question here and there to keep it firing. The reason I do also like it is how they are striking rhetorically, striking back at the arguments, and they're giving zingers. I call them zingers, is more fun. They give zingers back to the conservative thing. So it isn't a one-sided, and then they just give some baloney answer that has nothing to do with what they said. No, they give them an answer back that's like, yeah, but what about that? You know what I mean? And like I said, it's all window shopping, 1 hour of window shopping. It's not the real heavy of politicking, which is dry and boring. But this is good for the masses. The more people, I think, that get involved in politics, the better our country will be. Right? First, you got to get everyone paying attention, and then we got to make it better every day. Right? But once we all watch the show, and I believe that it's been in the last 5 years, there's been a huge increase in the amount of folks that literally pay attention to politics. And then from there's a lot more people who understand the machinations behind the scenes because of that. This is a great thing, and how we beat communism and autocracy or whatever, is we have many minds paying attention to it. But the Conservatives have one argument. There's been a couple others. The crime one, I don't agree with their idea that just putting someone in jail is the way to go. I just from experience, not my own, I've never been, but from people who have, and I've spoken to, it doesn't work. And recidivism is the number one thing, as I believe, is okay, you made an error, it's great you got caught, because now there's a chance that you'll never do that, and then help others not to do that. It's just like a non-smoker. Non-smokers a lot of times will help other people not to smoke. It's without no pay, without anything, but just they know, right? So to help make society better, you take the dredges, and instead of ostracizing and putting the dredges in a tent, help them make society better on where their errors are. That's my opinion on how to progress society and life forward, instead of box contain and wipe away. Right? That's just doesn't seem to work. As if only the pure souls going forward will be pure later. No, you put people in different scenarios and they act differently. I know there's a well-to-do area of my high school, and all those people were great. But once they went to university, they were like, "Oh my God, that person's a freaking demon." Well, it was the place that they were in. It was different. But once you put them in, so I think the shame and the culture and the moving forward, the growth is where the Conservatives should be pushing it, and having the cops, police. More tools, selling more tools and having more things. I just, jail isn't, jail is proven. Every country that jails more people, they get more people to put in jail. It's down on society the way we're doing jails right now. Very colorful. Oh, there's a motion. What's the motion? What happened? I want to see what happened. She had not a funny face, but something, an alarmed face.
First reading of Senate public bills. Motions. The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, there have been consultations amongst the part.
Are you kidding me?
Afraid there's not going to be unanimous consent. So I keep going now.
Presenting petitions.
Wow, they didn't even let her read it. So I have no idea what her motion was. I think they should have let her read it. She got shouted down before she spoke or uttered a word. It seems, I'm curious now what it was. But it is what it is. I'm not sure exactly what. Anyway, but yeah, they had some pretty good hits. That housing minister, I keep on saying it, but he's got the toughest job of every Liberal. The plan is going to take time to make this. That institution, the bureaucratic institution, is it's not the fix of today. It's going to be the fix to the next housing crisis. So it really, you know what I mean? It's a lot of money they're putting into it, but it's not going to do anything. So Mark Carney's right to do it. So 20 years, 50 years, 100 years from now, there's people that are sounding the alarm before it's really there, right? They're sounding the future alarm. But the fixing of it now, with the plan now, it looks like it needs more. And it will get more, I believe it, if this issue, if the housing goes down and it continues to be more of a problem. Carney will be forced to spend the money he doesn't want. He's a banker and he wants to have balanced budgets. Everyone agrees with that. But if the housing problem is getting worse and it's the only sticky point the government has, I think we'll see it fixed. And I hope he fixes it. I hope they fix it. But that's the housing minister's got the least envious job. But he may be able to, you know what I mean, by being put in the word Solomon. He may be able to be really highlighted and launched into a outstandingly big career in Canada and politics by handling the toughest file